6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Through Black and White Eyes. I've raced home, got home in time. First day back at work for 11 days. It was hard work. As you can see, I'm a mess. I was having a chat with Ian in the background there. He just disappeared. It was great. If anyone would like to become a member, there's the link. It's at the top of the chat for any time. It's 99p and upwards. You choose what you think this channel is worth to pay. If you want to do it, and we do monthly prizes on top. I'm going to do 2 prizes this month, 2 $40 gift cards to Diet Crow because I haven't done it for a while, and I'll be doing it on Monday. That is my commitment to you guys, to make sure 2 people get a prize. And Leslie's put in all the usual stuff, the gear to the guidelines, all that sort of stuff. Bottom there corner of your little chat bar, there's a $sign. If you want to donate, please do so. It really helps us to keep the channel running. And here's one of our members now, Roger. Even Roger. Tommy says, hi lads, do we think we'll be signing mod gear? We'll be talking about that obviously to an extent. And we are definitely going to be answering a lot of those questions, Tommy, I promise you. Mauro's in the chat as well. It's great to see Mauro back. Jog on Palace, plenty more fish in the sea. I love it. Bloody Palace playing hardball. There's loads of yous in the chat. I'm not going to be able to keep up with that going on. There's a lot of stuff there. Baz, can you do your hair next time the standards have dropped recently? I've just got out the shower, mate. This is what it's like. This is shower hair. John, looking forward to having John on the show tomorrow. There's another evening there, an evening Gary. So evening everyone in the chat and everyone watching. I hope you enjoyed the show. Let's bring Ian in. Hello, Ian.
Hello, mate.
How's it going?
I'm all right. After a traumatic day, I'm not too bad.
Yeah, how is the little one?
Yeah, she's fine. She's jammed. Obviously, she jammed her finger in the door yesterday, and it was pretty bad. Ripped her whole fingernail off. She's broke end of her finger.
Ouch.
She's been in to the RVI today, and she had an hour operation to kind of put a new nail back on and rebuild the front of her finger. So it's been a long day to see it, but she was a little warrior. She was absolutely fantastic, and on a great, because obviously where we come in past the RVI, we go past St James's, and the band spotted Darren Eales outside St James's this morning. He dressed in casual. He had a green Newcastle kit on, would you believe, and just a pair of jeans slacks, basically.
I wonder what he was doing. That's interesting.
That was at 25 to 9 this morning.
Ooh. Maybe he's got a sack. He's picking his stuff up. I doubt it though. But we hope the little thing gets well soon. I mean, the picture you sent me, it looked like she was probably high on drugs at the time or something. Because she looked very happy about being in the hospital.
She'd just come out then when I sent you a picture. She was managing to have some food because she never had food for a while. But yeah, she's not allowed, obviously. But she's fine now. She's a little warrior. She's doing absolutely brilliant.
Good. It's good to hear. Right, let's bring Will in. Evening, Will.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, mate.
Good. How are you?
Not too bad.
Good.
Doing quite well, actually.
Let's get the elephant out of the room. There's far too many dicks on Twitter, isn't there, Ian? I'm sick of it. I'm going to highlight it now because it's happened to me. I've been hounded loads on it, and still am, for things that I never did. But yet people just think because someone says it on Twitter, it's true and it's real life, and it's not. It's nowhere near it. The one thing that really angers me about what's happening to you, Will, is that you are a genuine person. And even if you try and tell people how genuine you are, they still think you're just doing it for clicks and all this sort of stuff. And I just want to point out very quick that there's two other big in the know accounts on Twitter who we've got a big following. One of them, both of them are actually tits, but I'm not going to say the names because it's not nice.
I think I know who you're referring to.
Yeah, I think everyone does, but I'm not going to say the names because it's not fair.
Yeah.
But they delete things. Whenever they get something wrong, they delete it. I never said that. I never did this. What I say is right, you know, and what they'll do is they'll throw loads of stuff out there, delete all the stuff that's wrong and keep the stuff that's right, and then say, look, I said this. Do you know what I mean? And you've never done that, and that's why we like having you in our group. We like having you on these shows because when you get it wrong, you're very genuine. You don't delete it like me when I got things wrong. Never deleted anything. Held my hand up and went, yep. Obviously the information was shit. But it comes from a good place. It comes from for a good reason. And it's just because we all crave what's happening at Newcastle United because we're in an exciting time and people just need to learn. If you don't like someone for what they do, don't comment. Just scroll past it or block. You know, why they have the need to actually say something makes them even more after clicks because they're saying it because they think they're getting noticed, and it just winds me up. But there you go. There's my rant over.
Well, the thing is that scene where it's like when you're up, no one credits you, whatever. When you're down, everyone tries to bring you down, and that was the fashionable thing the other day. To try and bring my account down, people were doing it, getting loads of likes and clicks or whatever. But look, I'm not too bothered. It's just the platform itself, I think, is a cesspit, to be honest with you. Which is why I've went on private mode, and I'm just anyone who says anything that's sort of, I don't get me wrong, I don't mind people having an argument or challenging me, but anyone who's sort of just straight up abusing me, I'm just blocking them, getting rid, and it's a lot nicer now. I think I'm probably going to stay this way for the time being, and I might even move my information to another platform. I think anything I do get, just because, to be honest, that I'm just done with that platform for the time being, with the way that some people have acted on it.
Well, you've got a platform right here.
Yeah.
And you've got,
well, yeah, exactly. And I've just had some really good
information
as well that I was actually trying to get verified, and it looks like there is something in it as well, which I think will maybe settle some nerves or maybe offer some more perspective. So I can share it now if you want, or I can wait. It's up to you.
We'll save it. We'll keep the juices flowing.
I'll keep it back.
But this one says, I saw your proof tweet, Will. Extra mile, mate. Shut the tossers up. Exactly. And how many times do all those other accounts in who put stuff out, who just block people, don't try and... Will's never covered his tracks, but he's always said, look, obviously this person who's given me the information, I've verified it with a couple of other people. It ended up being wrong. But football changes so quickly and people forget this. You know, 1 minute, an hour, a deal could be potentially done, then suddenly someone will pull the plug on it, and it's happened loads of times in football.
I mean, yeah, you look at the documentaries at the top clubs where Amazon's done it, and there's a deal dead in the water, and then all of a sudden people's being called into a board. I mean, Arsenal did it. If you watch that one, they were called into a board meeting. It was about 11:30 at night. They called them in just to get a deal done. Now, just because the information that people put out there or what people get doesn't mean that. What's annoying me is that just because, like I said, if the information that's put out there doesn't mean automatically that the signing's going to be done there and then. The information that's being put there is correct. What's been going out there, and you can see clearly that there's a lot of people out there are just picking players out of nowhere and just saying that we're linked to them. You can see that stand out with sore thumb, but the ones that's got legitimate miles in what I say in the information, what comes across, it's because it's there for a while, right? And it becomes from a certain journalist or that's like a strong media following that it's true, and it shouldn't take for, like, I'll revert back to the PSR one. It shouldn't
look
take
at this one, Ian. There's a great example of what we're saying
about Conor Gallagher. That was an absolute, come on, man.
Well, look at that deal the other day. That who was it? The guy, was it Chelsea or was it? I can't remember who it was, but there was a deal. Who the player was waiting in the hotel, and then it's the plug's been pulled on it. I don't know if either of you remember which one it was.
Was that not Conor Gallagher? With Conor Gallagher, that's exactly what's happened to him now. He flew.
Yeah, I
out to
think there's
Atletico
been two.
Madrid.
Gallagher's obviously something's happened there as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, and like I say, I've reverted back to the PSR, right? Because people still are absolutely blind to it. Now, Eddie Howe has even spoken publicly in his interview and said that PSR is still a massive issue. But they're just overriding it. And they're not looking into the bigger picture of what we're actually trying to do. And it's, for me, it's so frustrating on like loads of, and it's easy to point the finger. And like I said to Will, you don't have to justify yourself, pal. You don't have to do it. You just carry on providing the information if you're willing to do so.
Yeah.
Because you feel right to do it. And you know, I mean, I'm still getting bits and bobs from people that say, "Stop pretending what you are." And I've never once put out there that I get information from the club. I have never once said that, and I don't claim to be that person that gets information from the club. However, I do know people that have links within the club, like it or lump it. That is the facts of it.
Well, you played with some ex-Newcastle players, non-league football, so of course you're going to know people.
And the Guehi information that came out the other day is it came from a first team scout. Now, how can that not be legit? Now, I asked the question today: have we been thrown a red herring about Guehi? And the information I got back was Nick, the first team scout. When I spoke to him the other day, everything was done, deal. Something has fell through, and they don't know what it is. Them are the exact words.
I just want to say on the information that came about the other day on Monday that I put out. I'm not going to say who it came from because that's not fair, and it's quite a well-known person. But it was a tier 1 source that my information came from, and I know I also asked a couple of people on the Palace end, and they said they'd heard Steve Parish was changing like a flip-flop. They had someone else had the go-ahead from a very good source as well, that it was deal provisionally agreed. They're just sorting out the terms of Guehi, and a lot of people weren't sure what happened after that.
That was roughly about 2 p.m. on the afternoon. It was done.
Yeah, that was roughly when I got the message. Not long after that.
Yeah.
Ridiculous, isn't it? Well, we're going to talk about Morgan because obviously someone has messaged in the chat. Are we going to sign him?
I will say that the news I have is related to him.
Well, first of all, I'll have my little say on it because I'm interested whether this is going to line up to what you're going to say because this is just my personal opinion.
Okay.
I think the player wants the move. I really do. His interviews, he's never said, I'm committed to Palace, I'm going to spend the season here, blah, 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 blah. Parish never said the deal had been rejected, the third offer had never been rejected. I've never seen any source out there, like Sky Sports or anything like that, say that it's been actually rejected.
I just want to say that on that as well, sorry to interrupt you, Baz, but that article the other day, I think it was Sammy Mockbell, that I thought that headline was really poor, to be honest with you. Saying that the bid had been rejected, then you read the article and it says appears to be rejected.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, Baz, I'll back you up with Parish, right? If you instead of just a lot of people will just listen to something and go, right, that's it, it's done, it's finished. He's going nowhere. He never. If you look what the journalists have asked him, he never once give you a straight answer to say this man's going nowhere. And he deflects the answers by he says, "Mark,
he's a lovely lad. He's a great guy, fantastic
great
player.
lad." He questioned if he was such a professional and he was so important at football club. He questioned in his own brain how old that kid was, right? And then all of a sudden he's going around and going, "Well, he's a superstar. You're gonna have to pay every
superstar prices,
right?" And even Guehi laughed about that, right? Something to me is just not adding up. If you say, for instance, we go in for Vinny Jr. and Ancelotti's on there, you would go, he ain't going there. He's my player. He's staying. And that's a bold manager or a chairman or anything like that would come out and say that. I think he went around the questions. And for me, I don't know if it was you, Baz, and I've retweeted tonight, which somebody put it on. Everything seems a little bit fishy. Why all of a sudden is Crystal Palace getting interviewed, and why all of a sudden this interviews came out for him?
Yeah.
I think something's not quite adding up for me on a so-called larger journalist scale for me. So
I'll tell you why it's happening is because he wants a bit more. He wants more money. He wants another club to come in and try and push Newcastle. Newcastle have tabled their final offer. I think we've tabled our final offer. It's a take it or leave it. And Parish is worried because he knows he's going to have to accept it eventually. But he wants a bit more. He wants someone to come in. Chelsea aren't going to come in because they know they've got a 20% sell-on fee. And they're happy for us to buy them and then them get their slice of the cake.
Yeah.
The other reason why I still think it's going to happen is Guehi's only got 2 years left on his contract. And I think Guehi would, and I honestly think if we're going to walk away from this deal this summer, we'll be back next summer when he's only got a year left on his contract and we will not be as generous as we are now. Yeah. And I think that's in the back of Parish's mind as well. I think he's bluffing a bit like Everton and Chelsea with Gordon, and we ended up getting Gordon for 40 million. I think there's a lot of bluffing going on. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, and Will is going to tell us if I'm right or if I'm wrong.
But I also got, before Will comes, I also got told that Guehi is already asked to leave the football club.
Ooh, and it doesn't I didn't know that.
And it doesn't. But that's what I got told on Monday. That this is what it was accepted because he wanted to leave the football club. Now he's not going to become. He will still. Guehi's interview will not go on Sky Sports and say, "I want to leave the football club," because he looks so unprofessional. And you can see in Guehi's the questions what was answered to Guehi, he still didn't answer them in a way where, for me, it was a settled footballer.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's another thing.
Look at the Shea Given situation when he left Newcastle. Mike actually made him put a transfer request in before he sold him to make Shea Given look like the bad guy saying he wanted to leave. Yeah. And he spun it that way. So is Paris trying to do the same thing? Is he making Guehi come out and say, I want to leave this football club to make him look better? Say, well, I did everything I could to try and keep him, but the player wanted to leave.
But Will might turn around and say here that he's going nowhere.
Possibly. Will's just about to tell us, I think.
Well, the information that I've had on pretty good authority, and there seems to be something in it, is that Guehi's agent has been at the club today. So what you can take from that what you like, but to me that suggests that you can pretty much confirm from that the deal's not dead. Because why would he be at the club? So whether that's finalising a deal, whether that's what that could be for, I don't know. You can think what that could be for, but that's the information that I've had today. And by the way, this is from the same person who broke the interest all that time ago. You might remember I was the first one to get it before the Athletic, before David Ornstein. This is from that exact same person and the exact same source. So
interesting.
I would say it's very likely to be true, and I've spoke to a couple of other people and they've said, yeah, it looks like it is true. So there you go.
So what basically sounds of things, Newcastle are talking to his agent, going to agree the personal terms, because I don't think there's going to be any problems with that, sort his wages out and stuff like that. Then it's between the two clubs to finally agree a deal. Now, the one thing we've got on our hands is we do actually have time on our hands. We are not absolutely desperate for a centre-back by the weekend. We are desperate for a centre-back by the end of the window, which is 2 weeks away. Is that right?
Just over 2 weeks. 2 weeks on Friday.
So Shaw's hopefully not going to get injured in the next two games. So we have a settled centre-back pairing that have been looking all right through pre-season. You've got Shaw, you've got Byrne, and you've got Kelly all fighting for two positions. So we're not in a position where we need to sign Guehi now because we need him in for Saturday. We don't. We need him in by the end of the window because we're worried about potentially Shaw getting an injury. Then we've got no backup. But Guehi might come straight in. We don't know. But that's the way I look at it now, is that Newcastle are now thinking if Palace are going to keep moving the goalposts, we'll just walk away, let them sweat a little bit, and then it'll make us sweat if it gets close to the deadline. But it now looks like we're potentially looking at another centre-back, another young lad. Is that true, Will, or not? Have you heard anything on that one?
I couldn't tell you on that one. I think is it only came from that one guy, or has it been?
I think so. It's come from a few foreign journalists by the looks of it.
Yeah, I mean, potentially there could be something in it because not a lot gets out on the Newcastle side these days. Or what does get out isn't always true. So, yeah, there could be something in it. But I think to me it looks like a big drop off from Guehi to him, which is why I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that one would be true, but I think there's other options there as well. Would the revisit a deal for Chow? I'm sure they've got other options on the list as well. So look, it's interesting to see, but based on my information, I would think that they're still trying their luck with this Guehi one, and how long they're going to give it, I'm not sure. But I would say that the deal's still there somewhat.
Yeah. The other thing on that as well is Guehi doesn't want to sign a new contract. I think that's been reported, hasn't it, that he's been offered a new contract by Palace and he hasn't signed it. He's got 2 years left. He could run it down like Zaha did. They kept on pushing him, and he ended up leaving on a free. I honestly think we can sit there and wait and say, yeah, look, guys, you're going to lose him on a free in 2 years' time potentially, and we're not in that much of a rush for someone that you're asking for over the odds for. Just because he's English and he had a good Euros doesn't mean he's a star player.
I think Palace and Steve Parish particularly are quite notorious for holding on to their players even against their will at times. If you're their asset, there's not a lot you can do unless you've got that release clause like Elise did, which is why that transfer is very, very different to this one. I think if there was a reasonable release clause, it would have already been activated, but unfortunately that wasn't an option. So we've had to take the negotiations route, and Steve Parish is probably one of the hardest owners to negotiate with in the Premier League. So I think that's the reality and why it's sort of dragging on. But I still think we've got a good chance. But if it was me personally, I'd be giving Crystal Palace some kind of deadline now, maybe 48 hours, 72 hours. Because if not, you look at the squad, it's too thin. We still need a centre back in before the end of the window. I mean, I would have liked to see a right wing coming as well, but with what's happened with Miggy, it's maybe looking less likely now.
See, I don't think we're that desperate. I know people are going to laugh at me and say, well, we haven't moved on. We haven't done this, but we've got Hall in as a permanent. We've got Tonali as like a new player. We've got Willock, who's going to be like a new player this season as well, because he already played last season. I think our strength and depth is actually much better than what it was when we finished fourth 2 years ago. And I think even if we don't sign anyone now, and I've said this a few times, and people are like, oh, you must be crazy. But I still think the squad is top 5 because they're settled, they know each other, they know how to play. And the starting 11, barring the right wing, is pretty much very, very good to world class in some positions with Bruno, Isaac, Pope in goal, Botman at the back when he's fit. You know, we have world class players. Gordon on the left. You know, you got Joe Linton in there. You got Tonali. You know, Trippier. You can just.
I think the thing a lot of these fans forget on Twitter is a transfer window. It's not just who you sign, it's who you keep as well, especially in our case. Exactly. I mean, imagine if we'd lost Bruno and Gordon. We could have made 5 signings and they wouldn't have probably been able to fill them boots. So you've got to be careful what you wish for sometimes. And as well, a lot of the players at the club have developed since last year. I'd say if you just look at Hall and Livramento, their levels are much higher now. There's other players as well, Gordon after that season. So it doesn't necessarily mean the squad's stagnating it at all. And like Ian rightly said as well, with the PSR and FFP stuff, it's not as simple as that.
Yeah. And I also think if we don't sign anyone this summer and take the risk, because there's no European football, there's less stress on the players physically because of the games will be once a week, twice a week sometimes, but not very often. Imagine what next summer's PSR could look like.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and if we do finish in the top 5 without signing anyone, the PSR next summer could be massive for us to be able to then go out and then spend pretty big to be able to compete on all 4 fronts if we make it into Europe. And I think that's a risk that's potentially worth taking. It might sound mad, but that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
See, for me, the centre half for me is critical, and it's because we've got to change the dimension we play in games. We've got to revert to 3 at the back at times. Right, we've got to revert to different formations because we'll get found out, and to get us to that next level, especially when we've got an overload in midfield now. If we do keep a hold of Bruno to go to the end of the window, still, in my opinion, it's still a risk of a big player leaving. And you've got a lot of midfielders in there that you're Tonali coming back, Joe Willock. For me, they're not a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3 players week in, week out. So we've got to change our system. So I think going 3 at the back with 3 centre halves can make us get up the league. But like I say,
we still can play 3 at the back with the players we've got, though. I know they're not elite players, but I've seen Crap play 3 at the back at that right-hand side and do a very good job, especially against City when he played there.
At this present time, though, you've got Dan Burn, Lloyd Kelly and Shaw, right? If you put a Mark Guehi in there, that's a different ball game altogether.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that.
Right, but if you haven't got him, we're going to play a 4 at the back. And at times, again, you revert to type what you've got coming off the bench because you're limited to what you're doing. That's, for me, you've got to have that flexibility what the top sides have. You know, it's pivotal to me what we sign that centre half to take us to that next level, mate. Really do.
But is it pivotal this season, though? That's my question is, and why would it be when you've got already, when Botman comes back, you've got Kelly, Botman, Byrne, Shaw as 4 centre-backs fighting for 2 positions, potentially.
Do you know why it's important in my eyes, Baz? Age. Because if we don't get him now, Shaw's another year on, then you're fighting again in January to bring a player in that's going to be, you think you think people are priced now. You know what you like in January, it's ridiculous. And then you're going into another...
Oh, January is, yeah.
Then you're going into another season of the summer where if you already had this in place, it's a completely different ball game because you've already had a season under your belt. And for me, it's got to be put in place now because you've got 2 brilliant young fullbacks, right?
We do.
I mean, Hall, how's his worst critic? Which I'll hold my hands up. This pre-season, he's looked very sharp. He looks good. You've got Livramento out there on the other side. We all know his capabilities, what's going forward. And Botman, again, we don't know how he's going to come back, by the way. You know? And
we don't. That is a very, very valid point as well, because it's a bad injury.
You're relying on your Botman that you remember, which was absolutely world class. We could have a Botman that comes back and plays to a level where he was injured. You just don't know. I'm hoping that he comes back to his best. But then you're looking on that right hand side again, Baz, of that centre halves where you will just find a little bit wanting, I think. So it's like you can see why they're targeting this player, and I really hope something gets done this week to get him over the line.
Get Ginola in, you looked in good, Nick. That's a good one.
I really do.
You know, a lot of people have said to me that we're going to struggle to score goals, and I don't know if you guys agree with this, but you know, they said, they'll try and cut Gordon down the left, they'll double up on him. So I rightly said, and I think I'm absolutely right in this. Remember when Miggy, Trips, and Bruno were on fire down the right-hand side, and they started scoring loads of goals? They plugged that gap. What did we do? We found a gap on the left wing instead. You cannot plug both gaps. It's impossible. So if we plug Gordon, there's a very good chance that Trippier, if he's starting, or Tino, are going to get a lot of joy down that right-hand side. And Miggy and Murphy will get a lot of joy. And I think that's why Murphy's scoring quite a few goals in pre-season. It's because everyone's worried about Gordon on the left-hand side, and they're forgetting that Murphy's on the right-hand side. And he's been in acres of space for his goals on lots of occasions now. We've got four in pre-season. And I'm telling you, I think the right-hand side is going to be more dangerous than the left-hand side because the simple fact is that's who they're worried about. They're worried about Isak. They're worried about Gordon linking up, and there's going to be more space on the right-hand side to exploit.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised to see teams doubling up on Gordon. I think it even started happening in some games last season, and especially if you've got Murphy out there, that right-footed right winger that's actually quite rare these days, even though in the past it was so common. Obviously, a lot of fullbacks, these fullbacks are only used to defending against wingers now that cut inside and take shots, and when you take them down the byline, they don't know what to do. Or when you can go either way, like Gordon can.
Yeah, He can score with his left, score with his right. He can cross with his left. He can cross with his right. You know, we have got such a balanced attacking team now. Regardless of how poor everyone thinks the right-hand side is, it's still very balanced. And the
question for the right-hand side, though, who starts on Saturday, do you think? Trippier or Tino at right back?
Oh, it's a good question. That's for tomorrow night.
I honestly think Howe will go with Trippier.
I think he will. But that's for tomorrow
Which
night.
I wouldn't be against. But
yeah, no, I'm not against either one of them, to be fair. Palace reported as saying they've rejected Fulham's most recent offer. Yeah, they have. Yeah, so there's a race for Fulham with Anderson, as well as Anderson going to move on and Guehi stay. I mean, Anderson hasn't said he wants to move. I mean, going to Fulham is a sideways step, so that would be. I think he's better off staying at Palace because I think Palace look very good at the end of the season with their new manager, and I think they could potentially cook something if they stop selling all their best players, which is not good for us either because we won't.
I mean, without being biased as a Newcastle fan, I still think Crystal Palace to Newcastle is a much bigger, a lot more appealing than. Yeah, it's a lot more of a step up, I think, than
going to Crystal
Palace to Fulham, like you say.
Yeah. I think Palace to Fulham's a bit of a no offence to Fulham, but I think it's a bit of a downward step. The players they've lost.
Yeah, they're a bit of an unknown this season.
Yeah,
I really think they could be anywhere from 17th to 11th. Really, I think they could be anywhere.
Yeah, I think Palace could have a very good season if they sign the players they want and need because their manager does look very, very astute. So, any news on Gordon's contract?
No, bit of a strange one because I only got the news that they were negotiating or whatever. But the fact that he's still here and he's still our player, that is definitely a lot more positive. And I think once the season gets started, it's a lot less tempting for a player to move once you're already in the thick of things and stuff like that. I'd imagine Paul Mitchell being Paul Mitchell. I'd hope they can find an agreement there. And some people have reported as well that he's already got some sort of extension clause in his contract. So as far as I'm aware, it runs out in 2026 currently. But some people do believe that he has a 1-year extension. So, I mean, that would be an easy win if they could activate that. Just get him to 2027 instead.
Yeah, it all depends on whether it's the player can activate it. Well, it's always the club can activate it, isn't it? That's what normally the extra year normally means, doesn't it? Yeah, no, Fulham haven't replaced him, and they're struggling to replace him. He was a massive player for them, going to Bayern Munich.
They're trying to get
like Messi now. You what? Sorry,
they're trying to get McTominay, aren't they?
Are they? See, he's not a replacement for Paulinho, though, is he? I would say Paulinho is a defensive midfielder, and McTominay's more of an 8-10, isn't he? Likes to get in the box, score goals. Bit of a strange one. Let's move on to Miggy. So obviously Miggy's getting a lot of flack again, even though it's not really his fault. This one is more down to, I mean, it sounded like Miggy and his agent had terms agreed with Charlotte FC in America, in the MLS. But because of the terms, apparently, of how much he wanted paid and how much his agent wanted, the club had to lower their offer to Newcastle. And because it wasn't what we were after, I think it was 8.5 million, was it, Will? Or 12 million, someone said?
I think I got told 8 million.
Yeah, so they lowered it though, didn't they? Because it was apparently it was meant to be
10 or 8.5. Yeah, it might have been 8.5 actually, Baz.
Yeah,
might be right.
So
there.
Because of that, the deal collapsed, and because obviously we are looking in the region of 15 to 20 for him. Is that right? Some people said 20 to 25. Yeah. We're not getting 25.
Yeah, that was the news I put out the other day that. When it broke that Newcastle were in talks, I put out later that night that obviously they flew over for talks, had been in talks, and I said they'd had an offer of 8 million that basically wasn't considered enough, and we were looking for closer to 15. And I will give myself credit because it looks like that information has been pretty much spot on. But it's just a shame that they couldn't go closer to that valuation because with Atlanta's 20% sell-on clause as well, it means that if we had have sold Miggy, we would have only ended up making just over 5 million, I think. So when people can say sell him, but a lot of these people on Newcastle Twitter would be terrible negotiators because they want to sell they want to sell everyone for anything anyone offers, and they want to pay whatever
Yeah.
people want for anyone. So I'll be
Yeah.
asking a few of these people if I can buy the house, and I'll suspect they'll be accepting whatever I offer.
Yeah, exactly. A question to Will: what do you get out for being in the know? You don't get anything, do you? So, I mean, you have had a little perk because your account hit a certain amount that you've been able to offer.
Thing is, I
and
don't
get a
do it
little
for the
bit,
followers, though. I'd do it if I had
Exactly.
100 followers, or I think the followers just came from the fact that I was getting genuine information, and
Yeah.
even the team news I've had is proof. I mean, these people that say I guess stuff, if I've guessed stuff, I must be the best guesser in the world, because how I've guessed some of this stuff that I've put out on my account would be nearly impossible. But I think I just share it because, or if I was a fan, that's what I would want people to share what they heard if they thought it was reliable. So yeah, that's basically what I did.
I think a lot of people forget that with social media now, right? What we're doing is really what we would do if we went to the pub. We'd sit down with our friends, good people, have a chat. Oh, have you heard this? Have you heard this could happen? Have you heard that could happen? And some people would overhear the conversation, and then they'd churn in, oh, that's a load of shite. Or the other person go, oh, really? That's interesting. Then you pass it on to his mate. But because of social media now, it gets a much wider audience, and but we're not gaining anything from this. We're doing this because we enjoy our football club. We enjoy talking about it. If we didn't, I'd be sitting in the room watching EastEnders, Emmerdale, Coronation Street, Love Island, all the crap that's on the TV that the missus watches. So I decided to myself, I live in York now. I can't go to the pub with my mates and have a chat. So I'll do it a different way.
Yes.
And this is why we do it.
Put the washing out for your missus in.
No, I'm too busy doing this. I can't do stuff like that. There's another reason. It's to get out of chores as well, And
you made a good point there, though, Baz, about people being at. We really are just doing what people do at the pub.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically just made into a much larger scale and amplified by social media, and I think a lot of the frustration that's came towards me as well over the last few days, I think has probably just been frustration at the club's transfer activity as well, and I've been the one that some people have taken out on. But look, some of the tweets I've put out have had hundreds of thousands of views. That's not, I've never intended to do that. That's just, it spreads like wildfire on social media. So there's not much you can do to control that. But I will say that I did get a really nice message from Keith Downey yesterday, and he spoke about, which was quite, you would be quite surprised if you know my history with Keith, but I have changed my opinion on him a bit, because he did reach out, very genuine, offered me some really good advice on what I do share. He said that maybe I've jumped the gun in the past, which I would agree with. I probably haven't verified stuff to the best of my abilities, albeit I don't have anywhere near as many sources as people like Sky. But yeah, he did give me some really good information, so I will give him his fair dues on that.
I know
it's fair enough.
What he's doing.
But
Wants my info.
We all know what he's trying to do.
But what?
Don't, Will. He's giving you.
Don't fall for it.
Give you a little butter-up message there to say, "Hello, Will. Yeah. I'm sorry for having a little go at your own little live. I shouldn't have done that. But if you get any information, will you push it my way, mate? So Mr. Downey, you're a rotten man.
I'll tell you what. I have sent my information. Well, obviously everyone knows now. Everyone is watching this show, but I did send it to a select number of people, but I didn't send it to him. My information that I received.
He'll be watching. He'll be watching, mate. He'll be watching.
He will be watching this. Someone says, "I can't."
To be honest, I don't think he would have done anything with it.
Nah, probably. Well, you never know. But the thing is, though, we're bored of listening to Sky. This is why we do this a lot, because Sky just bombed the Big Six, and this is why
Sky have had a couple of shockers in the last couple of days.
Exactly.
They said the bid had been rejected, then they said it had been agreed. Yeah.
Exactly. This is why it does my head in. Mick says, do not have pubs in York. They do, mate, but when you work in 12-hour shifts, you don't go to the pub and then come home. You come home because I want to see my kids go to bed, and then I jump on here, and then I go to bed, and I go to work again the next day, you see me. And the pubs in York aren't that great either. I'd rather be back up home. Well done as always. Depends if it's 11 p.m. at the pub or 6 p.m. Right? Yeah, exactly. Why did you? Oh, apparently you blocked Toon Talk on X, and he asked me, and I says, "Well, I don't know the answer because I'm not Will's personal secretary, so you'll have to ask him yourself."
I'll check that, but I'm not a person who I don't generally use the block button that much, so I'd imagine you have said something.
That's only I said to him.
If
I
you
said, "Have you
block.
said something?" He said he's never commented on your post. I said, "Well, you must have commented on a post that was about him and said something potentially,
Yeah.
and that's why he's done it." So that's
I'd
the only thing I
imagine he
can
said
think of.
something because I know some of these people are trigger happy with the block button. I try not to be,
Yeah.
but
Oh, I'm trigger happy with it these days.
well, recently I have been, but I think he's been blocked long before that. I think.
Yeah, there we go. For me personally, I'm grateful for you all. You bring us all together on a platform for our viewers to be heard. For that, I thank you. That's from Leslie. Leslie runs the account while we're on lives and keeping an eye on everything. Don't worry, Will, you're smashing it. You can't get everything right, mate. Sky horrendous employs a man. You exactly. This is why we do this stuff now. A lot of people don't like Sky. Keith Downey watches this under a fake profile. I heard Dick Towney. What I heard. Brilliant. Well, we've covered Miggy, we've covered Guehi, we've covered the centre-back rumours of the new lad. We don't know anything about it, to be completely honest with you. Whether he's good or not, we don't know. It's an interesting one. I want to finish near the end. Well, before we go to the next topic, just hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying the show, hit the thumbs up button, consider being a member. Massive shout out to Diet Crow, who I will be doing the free giveaway on Monday for two $40 gift cards to two lucky members. Just got to be a member of 99p to have a chance of winning it, and the link is in the description for all their stuff. Football prizes are back, and this is an amazing prize. A Tonali signed shirt in an LED framed unique sign and shit. There's loads of other prizes as well. I mean, they've got a boot there, they've got two boots, all signed. It's £3.95 a ticket. It's 325 tickets, so you've got a good chance of winning. Competition closes Monday the 19th, so please consider buying some tickets for that, because that's in me. I wish I could win that prize. Link is in the description. And for all you guys, if you want to know, do I get paid for this? Not really. I get credit to go into football prizes to buy tickets to those prizes, and when I win a prize, I'll be giving it away. So I don't really get paid. That's what we do here. We try and give as much money as we can to charity. Which reminds me, how much did we raise again, Ian?
Oh, 6,500.
For the last 3 years since this channel's been going, £6,500 has gone to charity. It's not bad, is it? And we raised 3.4 on Sunday at the football, which was absolutely incredible.
That's fantastic.
It's good work, isn't it?
That's great numbers, yeah.
Exactly. And Will hopefully be involved in the game next year, as long as he's not on holiday.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
I hope so. Right, let's jump to the last topic of the night, because I think this is quite an important one. I know it's not a transfer one, but it's all to do with training ground sponsors and potentially a new ground. Is a new ground coming? Is a new ground not coming? I want to know everyone's thoughts on this. Peter Silverson on finding a training ground sponsor. Everyone thinks that because some clubs have a training ground sponsor that they fall from the trees. You have to pick the right partner to get the right values, the right fit, and it takes time. That, to me, Ian, is basically saying we ain't moving for a training ground sponsor until Man City have either won or lost their case and all the PSR bollocks changes. And if it changes for the good, they're going to be in a great position to try and get a lot of money, which could fund a great January window or next summer window.
Yeah, definitely. And he's the right man to do it, 1,000,000%. Yeah. We're in safe hands with him. He's absolutely remarkable what he's done. I think the new ground's on the horizon as well. I really do. There was some more reports came out this week about the same stuff that we reported. We spoke about, what was that, 2 months ago?
Yeah.
And things are starting to come up again. I just think things are really bubbling in the background regarding them things. I think it'll be a new training ground built and everything. I think once everything comes along, so we won't be just sponsoring the training ground, we'll be sponsoring everything.
Yeah. Well, it's not true. There'll be the kits. There'll be the new ground. Will have a new ground sponsor. I
heard they were looking up in Morpeth for the new training ground. Looking at building up there, which is I mean, quite a fair distance away, but I know a lot of the
Yes,
players live up near Ponteland, don't they? So
they do.
not too
They
far
do.
from there.
See, my initial thought for a new training ground was always near the racecourse because Jamie Rubin and Rubin's brothers own the land there. It's a very easy deal to do, and it's massive. There's plenty of land to build there next to the racecourse. And then that will also give, because they own the racecourse as well, don't they? The Rubins?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Yeah, the
That will
Rubens own
also,
loads.
yeah, so that will also potentially bring them in more money because people who go to the ground might want to then jump and watch the racing as well at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a massive complex could be built there, a better hotel. You know, there's lots of positives for that area for a training ground. And that's always been what I've been told from potential people who are in the know as well. They've always said that, you know, watch the racecourse because that is their land and that's why they're still a majority holder in the, well, I say majority, they've got what, 12.5%. You know, they're keeping their percentage while they're needed by PIF, and they are needed for land and they're needed for that side of things if they're going to be building new things because they're in that industry and they know how to get around planning permissions and all this sort of stuff. They're the best in the business in the northeast.
It's what we were said. It was the equity in the new ground. What will bump the Rubens up really, really well. The shares and everything will go through the roof on a different scale once if that new ground comes. So they'll just won't walk away like Amanda did. The Rubens will be tied with massive equity in the new stadium.
Yeah.
That's what
The difference with the Rubens though is that they've actually got the money to keep up with the project, whereas Stavely didn't. But the Rubens, I think, if the PIF didn't exist, I think they'd still be first or second wealthiest in terms of all the owners.
Oh.
I think they're worth 20-something billion. So these people have got absolutely huge wealth as well. So it's not like they can't afford to keep their share if they do decide to stay within the club.
Yeah.
As well.
Interesting. Brighton have spent 25 million on Gruder. They've done some serious business this summer. We are hooked. We're not hooked. No. But I think a lot of people also forget fans of other clubs. Like, look at West Ham. They've almost bought an entire new team, haven't they, in a way? Look at Chelsea. They buy a new team every single year, and look how poor they perform early in the season because they don't gel. They're not ready for the new manager hasn't got their style of play involved. Newcastle are a well-oiled machine under Eddie Howe. These players know how to play the systems. They know how to change things up when they need to. Yes, some of the talent might be missing in a couple of areas, but we have got a team that is ready to go this season. And if we get off to a flyer like Arsenal did last season, we could be hard to stop. And it'd probably be the Man City game when we do get stopped. That's the 5th game of the season. I can see us winning our first 4 games.
Yeah, I think it's the 6th game actually.
The 6th,
so we could win our first
5 games then.
Yeah.
And Spurs are in there as well away from home. And normally Spurs can be a bit of actually, I think going to Spurs is actually quite a good thing for us sometimes. I know we got beat last season, but normally we do very well there. So I think we could win our first 5 games, and then the City game will be the challenge. Does the momentum help us? Could we scrape a point against them?
Yeah, but I mean, at home, I'd back us against anyone as long if we put in a good performance, we're capable of beating anyone, as we showed last season against PSG.
Exactly. We just need Wilson to be fit, to have an option off the bench of a striker who can come on and change games, which has happened in the season when we finished 4th, didn't it?
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of people on Twitter and in general are getting really strung up on new signings. Don't get me wrong. I agree that we do need probably another 1 or 2, at least another 1. But there is something to be said for the stability that we'll have and the players we've already got at our club with Tonali coming back, Willock, things like that, as you've already mentioned. I mean, when you look at these signings that have went in around the Premier League, how many of them would genuinely get into our starting 11? Because I think you could probably count on one hand. Genuinely, I think there's very few of them. So I'd say West Ham have probably had the best window, but our squad was already a lot better than West Ham's before. Well, our starting 11, I'll say they have got a good squad, to be fair to them, but our starting 11 was a lot stronger than West Ham's before this window started. So they had improvements that they need to make. They've got a new manager. You don't know how that's gonna go. There's a lot of instability in the Premier League at the moment, and I personally think the teams that have had the same manager for a couple of seasons, maybe have just made 1 or 2 improvements here and there. I think they'll be the teams that you see get off to a really good start this year.
Mm.
It's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think, Ian?
Well, nobody's mentioned our new signing for a centre forward. I thought you'd done all
Yeah,
right.
he did all right in pre-season.
Yeah.
Should his goal being ruled out? Because when I was watching it live, he looked well onside.
I thought it was onside when I seen it in the stadium. Like, I think you were there as well, but it looked on to me when I first saw it.
Well, I was in the Gallagher, so I was behind play. So
I was right in line with it.
When I watched the replay, I thought he checked his run to be level. And do you know what it is? I thought his stride, his touch, and he took his goal really, really well. Now I thought he ran himself into the ground, mate. I thought he put a lot of work in. And he looked quite tired after that. But apart from that, you can see a little bit of potential in him. I think he'll do all right.
I think he will, and he's got a lot to work on. Don't get me wrong. I saw his positional sense sometimes when the ball went forward, and I thought he got out muscled a few times, a little bit bullied. But the runs that he made when he was on the shoulder of the defence, there was 2 runs that he made. He was rapid as well. So I think he will be very good when we go like a 1-0 or 2-0 up, and we take Isak off in the last 20, 25 minutes. You've got teams pushing up against us, so we can hit them on the break with him. You know, Bruno's cleverness with balls over the top and his pace, I think he'll score a few goals this season. I really do, if he gets a chance.
Yeah. I think a lot of people these days as well, because I've seen when we signed him, so many people were bringing up all these stats and stuff like that. And I think there's still something to be said for just watching someone with your eyes. It doesn't always have to be all about the stats. I'll say I watched him at the weekend, and as you point out, I do think there's 1 or 2 things missing from his game. He's clearly not the finished article, but I've got to be honest, I did like the look of him. I liked what I saw. He managed to get, not only did he take his goal well, that might have been offside, might have not been, but he got that shot on. He got that shot off, a strong shot on target on, I think it was his right foot. And he got involved in the playing, like you say, he's working hard and stuff like that. And with Isaac and Wilson to learn off, that's probably 2 of the best centre forwards in the Premier League. So I'd say I like the look of him, to be honest with you.
I mean, when I was there, I watched 3 players. Obviously, I spoke to Baz about it. I watched him, Lloyd Kelly, and I thought Lloyd Kelly looked really, really decent. I thought he played
some of the balls he played.
Did a lovely crossfield ball in the first half. He gave the ball away a couple of times in dangerous areas, but apart from that, I thought he defended quite well. And the other one, obviously, was Alfie Harrison, because I was really excited to see him play, because he came from Man City with loads of high hopes. And for me, he looked like a baby out there. A lot to learn. He's still, I don't think the senior players trusted him enough to give him the ball, because he did make quite a few good runs, but they didn't trust him enough, which happens. Again, I think the game kind of passed him by. A little bit disappointed, to be honest. But the kid that came off the bench on our left-hand side coming down,
Sanusi.
I think he looked a right live. He's a
live wire, but again, he reminds me a bit of ASM at the moment. He's very raw. He needs to learn to get his head up a little bit, doesn't he?
Yeah. At times, he looked very, very good on the front foot, quite direct. But again, I thought he was weak. But I thought he done all right when he came on, changes a little bit. But there's positives there when you look from the youth. Really is.
Yeah, definitely. The last topic is the ground itself. Ian's managed to put the guy's name in because I forgot his name, but Brad Miller came out with some comments saying that Newcastle only want to write the checkbook once when it comes to the stadium. It's a generational chance to basically put their marker down as PIF becoming massive in Newcastle with the stadium. But what's it going to look like? This is the arguments that we have online. Do people want to move away from St James's Park? Are they happy to do it? Where would the stadium be built? And could there be a deal be struck with Leazes Park? Because I've always said that the answer's right in front of us. Knock down St James's Park, turn it into a park. Knock Leazes Park down and turn it into a stadium. Just switch it round. And you
I think
could build a
the
massive
only issue
stadium.
with that is what you do in the meantime. If you do knock down St James's and you're building
No,
a new stadium.
Well, you build the stadium first, then you knock St James's down and then build the
Oh,
park.
right. Fair enough.
you build.
Would that not overlap though?
If
Someone said, you build 3/4 of the stadium on
And
the
then-
back of.
And then you
Of
knock down
the
the leases.
Yeah.
what
Right. Okay.
what
I get you now.
What's your thing on YouTube? It's called BuildyBot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gives you 3 different scenarios of what St James's Park could be, and watch the third one. And that's exactly
Right.
what
I'll
it
have
does.
a look.
And it's exactly what it does on Leazes Park. It builds 3/4 of the stadium behind, and then so you can have 3/4 of your capacity, and then they take down the Leazes at the last, and then build as you're building in. It's remarkable, and it's huge what it becomes. Huge.
Oh wow.
And that gives PIF exactly what they want. They want a marker set in the middle of the city if they can. St James's Park with an 80,000 seater stadium, 75, 80,000. Don't need any more than that. Yes, you will have empty seats when it comes to cup games and stuff like that. But when it comes to the Premier League, that stadium will be full and it will be bouncing. I don't care about tourists turning up. The core fans that go, as long as they seat them correctly in the stadium, should have an option for all season ticket holders, singing sections, standing sections, all this sort of stuff should all be done well before the stadium's built. Get it right, like they got the stack right, because how loud was that when we walked past it on Saturday? It was bouncing. That could easily happen in the stadium. And that's a tiny little event, and it was loud as anything. So there's no reason why a 75, 80,000 seater stadium at St James's Park to St James's Park the second, whatever they want to call it, it will be bouncing. And we'll get season tickets back.
But
many fans who walked away will get season tickets back, and then people who come abroad. I mean, we've got apparently potentially 50 to 100 Americans flying over for that double header in January, and they're not all going to get tickets, are they? So, option C. Apparently, watch that. That's what it's called, BondiBot.
BondiBot. I'll have a look tonight.
And option C is the perfect one, apparently.
Also, that you've got to look at the football club now for commercial, the business side.
Yeah,
it's not going to just.
Like I said,
it's
concerts,
not just
all that sort of stuff.
It's not just going to be used as a football club. American football will probably come there, and it'll be huge. Yeah, but huge.
I know, but I just don't like it.
Yeah. Look at Tottenham's ground. What happens?
I know.
Huge
boxing, concerts, you name it, it can all happen. And this here from Mark, Man U want to build 100,000 seater stadium. They can't. They're not allowed. And I know it sounds daft, but there's a rule being put in place by the FA that no ground can be bigger than Wembley. And it's actually in writing. It's a rule, and I know it sounds daft, but you cannot have a stadium with more seats than Wembley when it comes to football, which is
to be fair. I actually like that as a rule. I don't know what you think, but I think Wembley should be the pinnacle of English football. I mean, it's where the cup finals are played.
True.
I'm still not sure on the FA Cup semi-finals being held on there. I'm not convinced the semi-finals should be there, but all finals and internationals 100% should be played at Wembley.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I don't mind it. I mean, I think, like I said, a 75, 80 seater stadium is perfect size. You don't want.
I think you've got to be careful with the capacity though,
because
you don't want it. For me, I'd be probably looking around the 70 mark or just under, somewhere between 65 and 70. Because yes, them big games, them Champions League nights, I think we can fill it, but. You also don't. We're known for our atmosphere and stuff like that. You don't want an empty stadium. You don't want empty seats, and it's all very good coming to the games when it's going well. But who knows if we hit a rough patch, if it's not quite going how people want. We've already seen the reaction on Twitter this summer just from people not quite getting the signings they want. There is a lot of fans who are very quick to turn. So for me, I wouldn't go too over the top for the capacity, but we 100% need an extension.
I'll give a great example, right? Last season's friendlies, St James's Park sold out.
I think that was more because of everyone was on a high, weren't they? Everyone was on a high. There was new
Yeah,
signings.
This is what we're
potentially.
saying, though. But this is what I'm trying to say.
But it's a friendly. It's a friendly, though, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's
why was it? Why should a friendly sell out? Yes, we're on a high, but exactly what Will's just said. If things aren't going quite well, because if we'd signed Guehi, and say for instance, I don't know, we signed Jared Bourne, and it was signed a good top centre forward, at least to come in as well, I'd guarantee you them seats would have been full at the weekend.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
That's what I mean. It's all about what
But
the club does to show the fans that they need to go there. And because it was also a Friday and a Saturday back to back, you're asking people to pay twice, aren't you? And that's not an easy thing to do for some families.
That happened last year, Baz, and both were sold out.
Yeah, but again, it was that push from Amanda Staveley, wasn't it? That's what the club's missing out on right now, is that they don't have that personality drive in the board now that they did have. If you remember, my dad and Staveley, they were like pushing these friendlies. They were saying, "We're going to be there. We want your support." And I think we've lost a bit of that now that they've gone, and that's why they didn't sell out as well.
But I back Will here, because Will, know, just because say for instance you build this massive sparkly stadium,
that doesn't help.
That just doesn't guarantee to be filled. You've got to have the momentum to fill it. So again, I think I'm bang on with Will with you've got to be careful of the attendance. If you go up to 85,000 and you're only getting 60,
that's too big, 60, I think.
That's a lot. That's a lot of seats to fill. But like if we're not cooking on, you know what I mean? Even Manchester City don't fill their stadium out quite a lot of times, and us Newcastle fans in the same way, we're the worst critics, right? Because we fill our stadium. We fill it. Now, if we look at other people's stadiums where they're empty, we don't want that. So I think 65, 70,000.
I'm going to say this from the point of view of a season ticket holder, because I go to the match every week. And the big games, like Big Six games and Champions League games, stuff like that, you can see the difference in the atmosphere. And some of these Saturday 3 o'clock games, you've got season ticket holders, I'm not kidding, leaving 65 minutes in.
Yeah.
Some people are leaving 15 minutes before half time, going in for a pint, coming back 10 minutes after. And for me personally, I just feel sorry for the people who would die to have that ticket. And you've got people that are taking it for granted that they're here every week. And at some of these Saturday 3 o'clocks, people don't even turn up. They just sell the ticket if they don't fancy it. So on the face of it, it does seem like we've got this huge amount of people that want to go to the game, but also you've got to remember with the ballot system that's in place at the minute, a lot of people are just entering every ballot because they don't know when they're going to get a ticket. But if that changed and people knew they could get a ticket every week, people aren't going to be going in every week. A lot of people can't afford that, or they might even get bored of it. It's seen as something special at the minute. So you have to be careful. In my opinion, you have to be very careful with the capacity.
Yeah. I still think 75 will do it, and that's what it would look like. And that's how it will be done.
So that makes sense. That makes more sense now that I've seen that.
Yeah, so that's how it works. And that's what it will look like at the end. It just looks fabulous. It really does. And that, I'd kill for that stadium, to be completely honest with you. And again, I can't go to every game because I work 2 weekends every month. 12-hour shifts. It's impossible just to jump on a train and to get up.
There'll be a lot of people in your situation as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it is a shitter, but I would want a season ticket because I would then make sure I would sell it to my friends who can't get to the game, and sell it face value, of course, and all that sort of stuff. I'd probably give it away as a prize as well, potentially, which I've done in the past. I bought tickets and give them away as a prize because I couldn't go. So, there's lots of people out there who would do good with it as well as the idiots who would do the crap as well. But it's going to be interesting how it all pans out, because it does sound like it's a one in a generational chance. They want to write one checkbook. They don't care how big it is. And it could be massive to keep St James's Park and expand it, or it could be massive to build a new stadium. And I think build a new stadium would actually be cheaper than trying to renovate St James's Park. So it's going to be interesting. Guys, keep an eye out for this on Friday, 9 p.m. UK time. John and Superfan Dan are back. Looking forward to them doing their podcast. But even bigger, can't wait for this, Ian. So this is in January. It'll either be I think it's going to be the 16th, which is a Thursday night. It'll be at Benfield Football Club. It holds 60 to 70 people. We have a special guest, not lined up yet, but we've got a few feelers out of some ex-Newcastle players. One of them will be there at the night because we will make it work. We're probably going to charge £10 a ticket to get in, and all that money is going to be donated to Stanley Deaf Club. We'll get 50%, and the NUFC Food Bank will get the other 50%. So no money will be made by the channel. As always, when it comes to things like this, it will all be given to charity. So we're hoping to get a decent amount because we'll be at the games on the Saturday, and we're going to hand it over to the food bank on the Saturday. So then JB Rubin has to double it.
Yeah,
because we're twats like that. So we're hoping for quite a bit. We think if it all works out, I reckon we could easily make hopefully £1,000, £500 each, and that would be amazing. And then you also get a chance to meet John and meet Superfan Dan, because they have no time for people sometimes on match days, but they are putting themselves out there on this Thursday night for a meet and greet, as well as obviously meeting a Newcastle legend. And obviously, of course, there's Ian and there's me there as well. But no one really cares about us two, do the pal?
No.
Nah, it's all about John. It's all about John.
Not when them US legends are there, not a cat and house chance.
Exactly. So really looking forward to doing that. It's going to be amazing. Will, can't thank you enough for coming on again tonight, because I know obviously everything that's happened over the last couple of days, but we've got your back. Everyone on this channel has got your back, and everyone in the chat fully enjoyed listening to what you bring. I
appreciate it. I do genuinely enjoy these shows, so
good.
It's good. Nice having a chat.
Yeah.
I've got one final thing for people who aren't aware, just in case they aren't aware. We are getting drawn in the Carabao Cup tonight. Second round, we're ball number 15 in the northern section of the draw. So anyone who's interested in that will be taking place after the Leeds v Middlesbrough game. So just to let anyone know who wasn't aware.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. I knew it was happening tonight, but I'm going to bed, so I'm going to miss it. And I'll wake up and I'll get all these messages saying, "Guess who we've got?" And it won't be fucking Sunderland, will it? Had to get that one in. Last very quick question, because this looks like a good one. What lots of people don't take in consideration is the changing fan base from the 60s to the 2015s. Now families want to go. It's absolutely correct, because in the 60s, it was all grown men, wasn't it? Really, there was very little women who went to football. Very little kids got the chance to go because the dads went, they got drunk, they went into fights. All that happened in the 60s, 70s and 80s. And now we've grown up, had our dads take us to games. We're now trying to pass that down as a generation onto our kids. I took my little boy on Saturday. You took your kids. There was loads of families there giving the chance for the child to go to a game. And when they get the bug, Daddy, when am I going next? When are we going next? When are we going next? And that's why they end up with lots of family enclosure tickets, because of kids and because of dads. And it's fantastic. And that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think at that friendly on the weekend, I'd say the split between men and women was actually nearly 50-50, which for the times I've been at the game has been almost unprecedented. So it's good to see it's good to see different demographics getting into it. Why not?
Definitely. And obviously they had the women's game on beforehand, so you got a double header.
Yeah.
Obviously, because I was travelling up and my little boy was at football on the Saturday morning, we didn't get in till 1 o'clock into Newcastle, so we couldn't get to the game, unfortunately. But it was all about meeting, other fans. Speaking to John again, it was amazing meeting John on Saturday. You're going to see him on Thursday. Can't wait for that. And this is why we love our football club, because it's an inclusion, And like I said, the reason why we now do a lot for the deaf community and the charity is because that one game against Spurs opened our eyes to a section of our fan base that are amazing and that we never knew about, and they don't get any funding whatsoever. So it's amazing that we're able to do something. So yeah, there we go. Rant over again. I've had too many rants tonight, haven't I? I'm going to get pelters. I'm going to get pelters on Twitter again. I know I am, but I'll always stick up for good people, and that's the way I look at it. I will be back tomorrow night. I know Ian and Will can't because they're busy, but John is going to be available. Hopefully Jade might be available. I don't know yet. And maybe somebody else potentially for the look ahead for the Saturday game, because it's the only day I can do it. And we've got Maro, who's in the chat, who will be doing the live watch along on Saturday because I'm on night shift. So he's going to be doing the game. I'll be watching it on my phone in bed, and then having another.
No. You'll be listening to it, Baz. It's not on the. It's not on the telly.
I know, but you can watch it on your phone. I don't have a Fire Stick or anything like that. I watch it on my mobile. is absolutely illegal because they can fuck off because it's my phone. But I will be listening tomorrow as well at the same time on the iPad. But there we go. But thank you to everyone, Ian, Will, amazing panel, people in the chat, mods, you've all been amazing. Jules, it's great to see you on a show in the chat because I know you don't get very often to come on, so it's amazing. Leslie, of course, and everybody else who's in the chat. Thank you very much for making it a great show. I hope you've all enjoyed it, and we will see you again tomorrow night. Take care till then.